are not family heirlooms. Those are not things that we pass down to generations. The
They should be.
No, the Batman ones might, but not the Star Trek ones. Those Star Trek ones were from Burger King, and they're kind of ghetto. So those are the glass with the new Star Trek characters, including Nero. It's like I can't think of any.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah, I remember those. I didn't buy those.
Eric Bana.
I didn't buy those. Yeah.
This is it. Anyways, thank you.
I don't think that guy gets the credit he deserves. I think Eric Bana is a fantastic actor.
I think everyone gets Eric Bana gets his due, especially in the comedy sense. If you're from that hemisphere, you know that he's a stand-up comedian and does all those bits. So I think it's just one of those things. If Jim Carrey was just all of a sudden becoming an action star in Australia, New Zealand, you'd be like, when did this happen? When did this guy become
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, Eric Bana was just a comedy guy, and then one day he's like Black Hawk Down, and then all of a sudden he's the badass of badass.
Oh, he was so badass in Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, but if you watch his sketch comedy show, you're like, oh, that's Eric Bana. So, anyways, thank you everyone for joining us today on the Heroes World Quarantine Podcast. I'm here with one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. That's John in some sort of betting den, I believe, not in
shady underground superhero fight club.
Yep. A fight club where he's probably betting some sort of ruples.
You got to take off your shirt, John. Take off your shirt. That's what you need to do there.
What happened to your shirt?
Let's we learn anything. People have to pay for that, Eric. You just don't give that for free. So if you want to do it, John has an OnlyFans page. Sign up. Because if you got something, Eric, you never give it free. And
Patreon, man.
Of Mischief himself, Mr. Rob Gadetz, please say hello.
Hello, Eric Bana fans of the world.
You have now usurped the head of that because you're no longer you've quit your Army Hammer fan club membership.
We don't talk about that guy anymore.
Rescinded.
So yeah, that's
yeah. It's a bunch of fine young cannibals. All right, and finally,
you drive me crazy.
Guest. It's been a while since he's been on it. I will not go into all the massive detail about his bio, which we will do at the end. But welcome back, Eric. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, Stu. It's great doing it with you again.
I'm happy you're here. We're talking
I've always been doing the sidekick one instead.
Well,
nice to be in the main gun one.
Hey, it's all good. It's all the same. I've been on the sidekick ones myself recently, so it's all good. It's all fun. All right, we're gonna go talk about Shang-Chi. Full spoilers, full everything. So we're not holding back. This is full review action. So John,
you should have seen it by now. If not, you should have seen it twice.
Well, it's gonna be on the YouTube tag. So we're gonna go full for it. I gave everyone the questions beforehand, and we're gonna go to the details. John, Shang-Chi, we had a lot of expectations. You guys had a video of the trailer. Now that you've seen it live and in person, things you liked, things you hated, performances. Give us your thoughts. What did you think of Shang-Chi and the 10 rings?
So overall, I really dug it. The first half more so than the latter half, but we'll get into that later on. Simu Liu, I think he actually didn't get as much time as I thought he would get, but I think it was a good amount that kind of like got the audience used to him, and now he's going to be able to grow because it's hard to throw someone new to this realm into the deep end and just go, hey, you know what? Why don't you carry this whole movie? So they kind of spread it out with him. All the legends. I'm sure Eric and you are going to get into Michelle Yeoh and Tony Leung. Just magical to see them on the screen. And one of my favorite newcomers, Awkwafina, loved her in this movie. I know she gets a lot of hate, but I absolutely love her, and I think in this movie she did an excellent job. I don't know if I really have any dislikes per se, except for maybe towards the latter half. I was hoping for a little more kung fu action, but it wouldn't be a Marvel movie. It wouldn't be one of these big spectacles. It has to graduate from the HK kung fu movie into the big Marvel cinematic experience. So it might have been just some expectations I put on it. Like,
it's a kaiju film.
Yeah. I want to see more kung fu, but then if it's just a kung fu movie, then it doesn't kind of reach that next level of things it has to do. I think that's pretty much all I want to kind of just say rolling off the bat.
John, as someone who's grown up your life walking by temples and houses with those little lion dog protectors, like, didn't you just want to see them fight in real life? This was your chance, finally, after all that time.
It was
you're gonna
nice to see
do
them
that.
actually, yeah, like these things that basically you grew up as a childhood and you would see them on the furniture and paintings of your grandparents' house and things like that. You'd be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's like a weird looking dragon, but then you would only see like, Peach Dragon or or the Mortal Kombat dragon kind of became a thing. So you wouldn't really see like a.
Did you just
full-out,
say Peach
like-
Dragon, like the Disney
Peach Dragon.
cartoon
That's
from
correct, Rob.
19?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. You would see
Yes.
a big kind of dopey looking dragon. That would be the dragon
Right.
image from your childhood.
To be fair,
Um,
Rob, I think the culture is Lord of the Rings, Smog, like European dragons. Like when most people see dragons, they think wings and they have like an idea of what it is, not the Asian style dragon that is not necessarily a thing.
Yeah. And the other creatures, like I'm sure a lot of people around our age and stuff like that will remember waiting outside for your dim sum table, and they would have the statues of all the little lions and all the little things you'd be playing on them as a little kid, but they didn't really mean anything to you because you didn't see them other than that. You just see the statue. You didn't know anything about them. So it's really cool to see those things come to life and people go, what the heck is that thing, right? Obviously people are going to make Pokemon and things like that comparisons, but when you dive back, you'll recognize a lot of those things.
Yeah, the nine tail, the
Yeah.
nine tail fox and and everything, like
You'll
like
see that as
you
inlays.
see that, yeah. And
in,
people
like,
people
in
talk about that as
furniture
a
and stuff.
Pokemon, but that's actually not a Pokemon. It's actually a very mythological creature in
Technically,
Chinese
Eric,
lore.
it's both because there is a Pokemon named Ninetales. So
No, I know
they
that
just
was
took it from-
inspired.
Yeah.
But that is what's inspired the original, like Pokemon design and everything. It's actually that, spirited animal from the Chinese folklore and stuff.
Yep.
In fact, you have the same animal in the Netflix animation thing. The Love Death Robot thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like season 1. There is that Chinese themed episode, and that is actually also based on that creature, right?
Yeah. All of them were true to form. So yeah, I can imagine Disney wasn't going to screw around and not make them as close to could, because people from China and other
Dude,
people be like,
after Mulan, honestly, I don't have much expectations on this one.
oh, we can go to a whole different problem about Mulan, but let's keep on task here. John, performances. Who was the strongest performance because of this movie?
I think unanimously it's gonna be given to Tony Leung, and if you have to pick one person that just really killed it and you wanted to see, if you wanted to see, like, if you're like, could you see 20 minutes more of a certain character, you'd be like, yeah, give me 20 minutes more of like his journey to all the things that happened. So for sure it goes to him. I think Simu did a really good job with the time he was given to create this character. That's kind of like, he wasn't really cocky. He wasn't kind of like under like over his head. He actually looked like, if you go, one of my favorite scenes, the bus scene, he actually looked quite confident. And it was like, oh yeah, I kind of got this, but I'm not going to act like I'm unbeatable or whatever. So I like the way he played it, and I like that it's kind of like you just get not quite enough of him, so you do want to see more. So
yeah. Rob, same question to you. What'd you like? What'd you dislike? Thoughts on performances?
Yeah, so I actually, the absence, I saw this just about a week ago, last Friday. And I know that Stu and we kind of conversed the next day or whatever. I feel like the absence of time has made me actually appreciate this movie more so than when I left the theater. My initial reaction when I left theaters, I quite enjoyed it, but I was like, it felt like it just jumped in. Like that bus scene is, you get the backstory of what's happening, and about the 10 rings being, over like 500 years ago or whatever, and
1,000, I think, or something like
1,000, yeah. And so you get a lot of that, and the sense of the mythology. It foreshadows the mythology that comes later to the last act of the movie, and then it jumps right into the bus scene. And that bus scene took 4 weeks to shoot, the entirety of that bus scene. So it really does aside from that first 8 minutes setting up the mythology, it is full on gangbusters. It does not stop. And admittedly, it was a little bit jarring. I'm used to a bit of a slower build up with Marvel stuff, and then kind of going. And this just went full on, like, hey, we're ramming it in, and off we go, which is a lot dearer than I meant it to sound. So that kind of put me off. But then in retrospect, like as I've thought about it, I've quite enjoyed it. So I really enjoyed the fight scenes in this movie. I enjoyed the martial arts. I enjoyed the action scenes. I'm a product of the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? So I grew up watching a lot of, dubbed martial arts movies. They were on TV. You could get them on the weekends and the overnights, right? City TV would play them sometimes. Some of the other channels would play them on the overnights. It was usually the last movie that you would see sometimes on the Fox 29, the local Buffalo affiliate, before, at 3:00 where they would play the national anthem and the station would go quiet for 2 hours, right, to let somebody sleep. So I grew up watching a lot of those movies, and I loved seeing some of that interpretation back. I mean, we all talked about the Jackie Chan call out, with the jacket that Simu had done on the bus. And of course, they released a lot of that footage beforehand. I enjoyed the overall story of it. I liked, again, the mythology. I liked his father, his portrayal. It was a lot of emotion. It was raw emotion. It was an interesting take on a quote unquote villain, which was not something I expected. I really thought they were going to kind of say he is the actual Mandarin. He was the one pulling the strings. He is a terrorist. And they kind of lead into that at the beginning of it, saying, he built up the 10 Rings organization there as a terrorist. And I thought he was going to be the central figure as the quote unquote the Mandarin, but instead he kind of joked, like they named him after an orange, like a piece of fruit, right? So I thought that was an interesting take on that character.
To be fair, Rob, they called him a conqueror throughout the movie, not a terrorist. And then they kind of scapegoated the other things, like, I've had many names. So he kind of let them breathe. It's like, by the way, this is not kind of retcon what was done before. It's like, by the way, any of the great, conquerors / generals of that past history, and they
he called himself a conqueror, but what they were showing in the timeline of the events of him being, his organization being in charge of the death of, the assassination of certain political people and this and that, I think you could just say, well, those acts of terrorism. Too.
Or took down Napoleon.
So I would say that. So I think his organization was a terrorist organization, but he referred to himself as a conqueror. I think that is we could go on and on about that, because I think it's a very important distinction, and I think it's a head scratcher. And a good conversation. No different
than the CIA, to be fair. So
yeah, so fair enough. No conqueror considers himself a terrorist. So
ask Hans Gruber.
Yes, right, exactly. No, they're just there's petty thieves. So every time you say Hans Gruber, I think, Theo, it's Christmas, believe in miracles. So I really enjoyed it. I liked the change. I heard somebody in another interview say it was kind of like taking an old school Chinese martial arts movie, and then all of a sudden it became a Chinese fantasy movie towards the second half. Mm-hmm. And I actually quite enjoyed that. It reminded me a lot of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Even the beginning scene when his father, goes into the mystical land and all that stuff. So, as it pertains to an origin story, I thought it did a very good job. I thought it set up really well. I thought Simu Liu did a fantastic job. I actually thought, I know Awkwafina is a very talented actress, an individual. She's an artist. But I actually found her not funny, despite what,
How dare you?
No, I didn't. I found that her interaction with him I felt it was very forced. Like, I felt like the comedy wasn't hitting. Like, I don't know if she was trying to improvise any of those lines.
Boomer. Okay, you're just old man sensibilities.
No, I didn't it didn't land for me. Yeah. She did a couple. There was a couple towards the end where they landed quite. I was like, okay, there you go. But
was Noah laughing at her jokes, or was he also?
No, not at all. for those who are wondering, yes, my son, my 12 and a half year old son, who at the end of the movie said, "That's my favorite movie." He says it after every movie. In all fairness, he thought Venom was his favorite movie as well. Once we left the theater to see that, so
well, he didn't like Fast 9. So
that one he didn't. So you're right. Yeah, he was like,
he's just on a hell of a ride up. Like every movie just keeps topping the other movies.
Fine. It's overall. Listen, I grew up. Listen, obviously in this group of individuals, I'm the Caucasian guy, so it doesn't.
Couldn't tell. We don't see color in this chat.
But I know that a lot of my friends who are of Asian descent, it kind of spoke to them. They were glad to see the representation of their culture on the screen. I enjoyed seeing. I grew up watching a lot of those movies, like I said. So I enjoyed. I used to visit Chinatown a lot when I lived downtown in Toronto back in the early 2000s. So I enjoyed seeing that on there. I was very happy to see it on there, and it was a good story. It didn't the infusion of the culture didn't overshadow the story, which can be a fine line, right? It could be tough to do that. So overall, I like the movie. I actually want to see it again. I would go to the theater again to pay to see it again.
I would agree with you in IMAX, but I think it's one of those things where I know that maybe someone who doesn't I don't speak Mandarin. I don't either. First bit of the movie, I was like, whoa, they're going for it, like Mandarin everywhere. It was kind of like Black Panther,
full subtitles,
when they went full subtitles in Black Panther for parts, but that's a made-up language. Like, there's no such thing as Wakanda. So I'm like, okay, no, everyone's in the dark. But this one was kind of like the people I was watching the theater with, a bunch of people. I'm like, I could see them kind of nod. They're like, oh yeah, okay, they're Mandarin. They can understand it.
But so my son did turn to me and he goes, "Is this movie entirely in another language?" And I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Just kidding, man." But you're right. I am surprised that first 8-10 minute sequence was all in Mandarin. That's a commitment, right?
Yes.
Like that's a commitment right off the bat.
1,000 years ago, they weren't speaking English, so that's the thing. It's
well, but we're so used to if you want to say whitewashing or whatever, you're so used to seeing historical movies where they all speak English.
But
right?
to be fair,
Mulan,
Eric,
that is why I was like, I was shocked when they started speaking Mandarin and keep speaking Mandarin, and without anyone speaking English for like the first 10 minutes. It was like, yeah, this is what I want. Versus when Mulan happens, the first 2 words is in Mandarin, and then the rest, everybody speaks English. It's like, what the hell is this?
Oh, that's not. I mean, the fact that they dubbed over Jet Li is a whole different problem. But to your point, I think that we're so used to watching period pieces where whether it's Greek, whether it's Italian, whether it's they'll just speak British. It's like, oh, it's a period piece. It's like, oh, we're in Venice, and all of a sudden everyone speaks like they're from London. I'm like, okay. But from this, to your point, Eric, it was really nice to hear, and you can't replicate that language just by someone speaking British. It wouldn't make sense. But give me your thoughts. What did you like? What did you dislike? Give your thoughts on the movie.
I like this a lot, with a very reserved kind of feeling when I walked into it, because I don't know. I watched most of the trailers. They are selling the action. It's great. I mean, they don't even sell Tony Leung at that point, but of course Tony Leung owns this movie. I'm so glad that they got him to play this role. I did not expect that it is a family drama. I'd expect that to be something like like the kids running away from the dad. That's what they're trying to sell, and but then it is in its heart a very typical Chinese family drama, and it's very Chinese to it too. It's like the dad want you to to take over his business, and the kid doesn't want to do it.
Now, Eric, it's the son to take over the business, not just the kids. It's the son take over.
Well, yeah, exactly. The son.
Daughter,
and they don't want the daughter has nothing. There's a lot of those kind of. There's a lot of those kind of like, like very Chinese aspects to this whole movie, and I really like how to infuse that into a Marvel film. And when we talk about representation and all these kind of things, I normally would not agree that we need, like an Asian Marvel superhero film to do Asian representation, much like when they boast about Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, I don't feel represented. You know, like how does crazy and rich represents
Eric,
us?
you don't have $1 billion at your disposal that you can just spend on miraculous events on a regular basis.
That's a fake thing. You got like I don't
like Asians are some of those Singaporean Asians may be crazy and rich, but then not the Canadian, not us Canadian
there's
Asians.
No crazy
you can ask the three of us, you know, like we're not rich and we're not, you know, we might be crazy, but we're not rich at least, you know. So that is one of the things. And I have been always saying at that particular time when Crazy Rich Asian came out, you know, there's also this movie called Searching. And I feel that Searching is a great Asian representation in a movie, meaning that, you know, like we all integrated into this Western world. We decided to, you know, either we're born here or we came here with the family or whatever, but we decided to call this place our home. And we want to interact as such and not being singled out as, you know, you're the Asian person and then you have an Asian story. But then Searching has a Asian person as the main character, but then they don't single him out as Asian. They just take him as a regular American. This just so happened that it happens to like this Korean family, this story, and then they sprinkle a lot of little Korean stuff to it, but then they don't make it a big deal. You know, like Kim's Convenience is another, you know, another things, and like you just take that piece of, you know, the Asian, you know, like American or Asian people living in the Western world, and take that as a day-to-day story. And this movie, you know, initially I was a little worried about it, that are they going to be too preachy about like, you know, look, it's all Asian, look, it's all Chinese and stuff. But then no, they actually integrated it very well into the whole bigger Marvel universe. The story, the elements and stuff, it just so happened it happens to this particular Chinese family, and it grows with this character and he becomes the next superhero. Yeah. And I really like that aspect of this.
To be fair, Eric, I think, as you mentioned, in my lens with Marvel, the MCU specifically, is that there are purists out there of us that love Marvel comics, and they're very particular of artifacts and technology. And in the movies, they've just basically said, screw it. We're just going to fix whatever and bend whatever we want, whether it's the Tesseract is now, you know, the Cosmic Cube is now Infinity Stone, the rings are something different. Like, they keep on just changing stuff. The Eye of Agamotto is a Infinity Gem. They're just like, whatever fits the story, they're just going to do whatever it has to be done. And I felt like they've done it here too, where Shang-Chi has a rich history that his father was Fu Manchu, and there's all this weird stuff with it. And they decide, you know what, let's just wipe that out and then make a new history, because it was from a time for, you know, as Rob was saying, like there was a different time in terms of Bruce Lee Kung Fu movies, and they're like, we're just going to go off the coattail of this. And they made some changes and made it more realistic and more to the Asian experience. So yeah, some people will still be a purist going, well, it's not the original Shang-Chi and he doesn't have the powers he has in the comics, and he's not this and he's not that. But I think we can all agree it's not really a big deal, because I don't characters, you know, there.
See, the interesting thing about it is I worked with Marvel for like 20 some odd years. Mm-hmm. You know, like Udon started our career with Marvel. But the interesting thing is, I have to confess, I was never really a big Marvel reader. Mm-hmm. So I know of the characters because of work. We have done various different things. Some of the things that you don't see, you know, we do like trading card artwork, we do style guide artwork and stuff back in the days for them. So we did some Shang-Chi stuff way back when. You know, we did some other character stuff. Mandarin, we draw like about like 10, 15 different trading card for the Mandarin. And it's always the rings, right? The 10 rings is actual finger rings. Yep. And when they started promoting this movie and you see Tony Leung wearing these like armbands, and it's like, holy shit, that's interesting. That's like a totally different take of 10 rings, but then they make it something more interesting. And it works. I think it works because if we want to make it into like a Kung Fu type movie, you know, the bracelet rings is actually part of some sort of like, you know, Kung Fu trend and everything too. So it works very well. And then the way they manipulate it, with the special effects and stuff, it's a really, really cool idea. Whether or not the purists would say, no, this is not the Mandarin that we're looking for, but he is not Mandarin. So here's the thing, right? In the movie, he's not Mandarin. He's technically like a new character that is Shang-Chi's father, that is not Fu Manchu either. But they kind of, rewrote that whole thing, with the MCU in mind, particularly to make it work.
Yeah, Wen Wu. So that's a thing.
Well,
So,
I think we also have to acknowledge though that the history of Shang-Chi, and I mean it was built upon a bunch of Caucasian men exploiting the culture at a time because of the height of the Bruce Lee movies and this and that, right? So if you want to say, well, they want to be purists and say, well, this is not what the original, you have to understand, like the original wasn't.
Yeah, wasn't glorious.
No.
That's how I feel about it too, because that's how me as an Asian, as a Chinese feel about it. Is like when they announced them making Shang-Chi, I was like, why? I mean, like, I understand you want to make Black Panther, but then Shang-Chi is not exactly the role model of Chinese heroes, because he is actually, just like a token. No, he's just a token. He's just a token Bruce Lee type guy to be exploited back in the days.
He's an Avenger. He shows up. Like, he's not. Here's the thing. Like, I agree with you. He's not. It's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy before. No one really knew of him, but he's not a West Coast Avenger. He was on the real Avengers.
He's a real Avenger.
So, like, if you're gonna talk, he wasn't on the Great Lake Avengers. He wasn't on the West Coast Avengers. For the real Avengers. So, like, I get it, Eric. You can say that, but like, technically, him and Power Man, who was also used in the height of blaxploitation too. It's like these characters that kind of jokes have been Avengers. Avengers. You listen to the list, like
who's not an Avengers?
Cyclops has never been, like there's been.
But he's an X-Men.
Some people that haven't been. But
well, that's because they use retina scans and he can't pass that. So that's
blows up the machine.
Yeah, he doesn't pass the Wi-Fi thing, Eric. He's in the
right.
backyard. He can't get through. So the pass. So, all right, we have so much to talk about. So I'm gonna jump to the next thing. John, give us a rating out of 10. This is probably the most difficult thing you're gonna do tonight.
Like Rob said, this movie took a second. Like, I think it was just maybe I put a certain amount of expectation on it, so when you finish, you're like, oh, but they didn't do this, oh, I only got half of a kung fu movie. Where's the rest of the kung fu movie? But I'm like, but once it's all sit down and you realize what they did do with it, I think it's a very good film, and it is highly rated on Rotten Tomatoes user and a critic score, and I think justly so. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 right now.
Ooh, Rob?
Yeah, I'm close to John. I'm going to give it an 8.5. There are some issues that I do have with some of the characters. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Eric?
Yeah, I would say, I would say 9. Like quality wise, I think is an 8.5. But then the amount of stuff that they could have screwed up and didn't actually make it bump into a 9.
Or is that the Black Widow bump? Because Black Widow was so bad and it's fresh in your mind. Because Robert and I was talking about that, Eric.
Widow,
yeah. Black Widow bump is a real thing. Because I look back and my rating would be similar to yours and John's, where it's like an 8.5, but like I gave it an extra 0.5 because Black Widow was so bad that I'm like,
I actually never thought about Black Widow, but then, as I said, this being an Asian focused movie, they could have gone a lot of ways to make it like really cliche and bad. And they didn't go there. They actually make a genuine, authentic Asian movie. As I was, we were always joking about that helicopter, being WW888, that number of Wenwu's helicopter being WW888. How this is very, very Chinese.
But can you explain that for the non-Asian people?
So the non-Asian people who doesn't understand, 8 is it's kind of like represents wealth,
Okay.
And you know, it's the number 8 when you read it out loud has kind of like a similar tone to the word fat, means like wealth and like you and prosperous. So
and then the reverse of is why if you live in the GTA, there are no fours, because four in the weird
four means die.
Like,
She. Yeah, she. It was like the same as the comic book character. She is like 4. It's it's kind of similar to that. So people
next time you
like
go
Chinese
to the elevator,
Chinese people don't like 4, and then we like 8.
Yeah. So apologies to cell phone providers. Whenever we call and get numbers, it always has to have 8s in it, no 4s, and same with license plate DMV.
Yeah.
Shout outs to you guys who always have to put up with requests of please no 4s.
And
if you give me some
8, give me some
amazing.
If you buy a
it's
house,
got a 4, it's got to have a 5 in front of it. Like all kinds of, like shout outs to those guys that had to put up.
Five is a negative
condos,
effect.
Back in the day, Rob, just for your clarification, back in the day when you bought a condo, most condos have a 4th floor. Now they don't. Now they just get rid of them. Just like how in the day there's like 13th floor is bad luck. We can't have a 13th floor. But now when you go look, most
condos, Chinese people like 13.
The 4th floor is gone and the 13th floor is gone. So all these condos now are missing just numbers.
The 14th floor is going to be gone too.
Yeah, it's
so shout outs to anyone who has to put up with that.
We should just have bungalows.
House number is
it's
3A.
Not even get this off the feng shui stuff and like the door and like that's a whole different can of worms.
Well, thanks for explaining to me. I actually thought it might have been the 888th version of Wonder Woman, and I was a little bit concerned.
Wonder Woman. 88.
Yeah, it was one of the things. I think Black Widow bumped my enjoyment of this movie. But to your point, Eric, I didn't think of it as like when you watch the Olympics and it's fresh in my mind, and you watch like diving or gymnastics, the judges give you marks based on difficulty. And to your point, it's a fine line between like touching and cringe. And to your point, it could have went really cringe from a Chinese like we're gonna do a lot of Chinese stuff and make it over the top and not have it be genuine and true, rather than like, oh, this is just people living their lives and they just happen to be Asian. So
that's why I said you had to be careful. It could be very cliched.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't think it was.
And there was too, because there was a scene when the people were at the bar and they're like, the South Asian guy was like, oh yeah, I hear you. It's like, oh yes, he's also Asian, but he's South Asian. Like he's he's not an Asian.
Yeah.
But then when Shang-Chi and like, and Katie were talking, he's like, oh yeah, I get you. So it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, like this is a bigger thing. And I'm
the best was the ABC line. I was like, I think we've discussed this during a podcast, Rob. The ABC, American-born Chinese, or
alphabet,
Canadian-born Chinese. He's like, oh yeah, I speak ABC, and I'm like, oh yes,
vindication. Okay, so this is a big question for those. Black Panther had like a big cultural movement for people that maybe didn't understand it and maybe watch that movie. Even though they weren't a Marvel fan, it was something that was just swept people in the moment. Is Shang-Chi that, John? Is this a movie that you can watch even if you're not, into the Marvel canon, like a regular person can watch it? Is this the movie that, outside of Black Panther, there's been a bunch of movies in between, but is this the next one you can walk in and be like,
I think so. Yeah, Black Panther is one of those gems where you can just watch it not knowing anything about the MCU. I think this is very similar, and they kept the kind of like Easter eggs or the cameos to a minimum. I think Wong is the major cameo in this, and I think it's not very integral to what's going on in it, and it's like towards the end of the movie anyways. So I think for sure you can watch this. You could take your parents to go watch this probably if they're into like a kung fu movie, and then it will turn into like this crazy extravaganza at the end. So I think you could definitely watch this with someone who's not into superhero movies.
Rob, the big question to you is that could you drag your wife to watch this movie?
I think so. And I think a lot of that probably has to do twofold. One is that it's not beholden to any other Marvel movie that has come before it, right? They barely mentioned the blip, as they call it in the MCU.
Yep.
So it is a self-contained story for the most part, and it's entertaining. So the second part being, yes, of course, because it's not beholden to the MCU that's come before, and because it is an action movie that's a lot of fun and is an easy entry into this character, right? So yeah, totally. I think my wife would like it. I do worry though, your question though, and I think not against you, this has been, I feel like it's being unfairly compared to the cultural significance of Black Panther. And I worry that people are putting that on this movie and it won't meet the expectations and it won't meet the hysteria or the hype, I guess, of what Black Panther did on that cultural elevation. Do you know what I'm saying? The representation. I don't think that this movie will. And I don't know. I always, when I hear people make those,
I think to your point, Rob, there's no, like in Black Panther, it's the Black Panther sign. Like there's no like moment where Shang-Chi does like the salute, and now every person sees it, we're gonna do the salute. Yeah. So there's like, to your point, it's like, yeah, there's like the high, like there's nothing real unless we go start singing Hotel California when we get like, there is no to your point thing that binds people. But I think from a standpoint, what Eric already mentioned is that there will be significance of this movie because some boy who's never seen a film like this, where it's a North American film, first off, that has an Asian lead, that is not just a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer and just a regular dude becoming a superhero,
or a crazy rich Asian,
or crazy rich Asian, will impact them more than a lot of it, because there's that type of tiger mom, and that it's kind of touched upon this movie too, where Asians are kind of pushed to do something that they didn't really want to do. And it's a different kind of experience as to Black Panther, where Black Panther is about a king and T'Challa and all things that could happen about
the reason
that. So it's different, but right, I think it'll still have significance, but not to you're right. It's not going to have as big of, like, you're not going to see soccer players when they score, they do the Black Panther thing, but you're not going to see it in this.
Well, I think that when Black Panther came out, first of all, let me just clarify. I think it's, I said this at the beginning, it's good that people of Asian descent are looking at and they can see themselves in a character, like you said. You have little boys who can grow up and say, hey, that can be me. But when Black Panther came out, it wasn't just about the movie proper. It was about the cultural significance. That was a main story on CNN and on The View. And like that narrative was bigger than the plot of the movie. So that's all I'm saying is I haven't seen that narrative of this movie transcend the way that Black Panther.
Well, to be fair, so I have been looking at this movie and the representation aspect, as well as the international reception from different factions of Chinese people. So you got to understand, unlike Black Panther, which clearly represents the African, culture and everything, with the African Americans, with the African culture, everything, it represents internationally African culture and stuff. This movie has a very, I'm pretty sure that you guys are not aware of it, but then me being, like very connected with like the Hong Kong scenes and the mainland China scenes and everything, like in China, it's still not approved to be in theaters because of a lot of political reasons to it. Right. And then
and the Eternals.
The Eternals is a different,
that's a Chloe Zhang thing.
That's a Chloe Zhang thing. But this one, it's more than just a director thing. This one has a lot of small little issues that happens. And also from friends and Facebook groups of Hong Kong people, they were initially dissing this movie because they feel that this doesn't represent them. They feel that Simu Liu does not represent, like them from Hong Kong. Simu Liu is a Canadian, Chinese, or an American, North American Chinese. So to them, they don't connect with him as a character. They don't connect with him as an actor. there's a lot of kind of segregation between all the different types of Chinese people. So to me, I looked at it, I watched the movie, and I understand the movie standpoint. It's more trying to give representation to American Chinese people. The hero is American Chinese. So pretty much, I think it's a good focus because, to be honest with you, when you are talking about kids, looking up to heroes and stuff like that, when we grow up in Hong Kong and Asia,
Bruce Lee.
We have Bruce Lee. When we were younger, we had Jackie Chan. Although Jackie Chan is now a complete douchebag, but
we had a whole Asian cinema.
We had a whole Asian cinema.
I don't want to be stricken down by the Chinese government, so we gotta.
Even Tony Leung. Tony Leung is one of our childhood heroes. So the representation matters less for us than I think the Asian Americans and the Chinese Americans, that they need that kind of representation more urgently. And I think it works very well. And I think it does give that representation too. It's like, the second generation Chinese kids.
I think to the point too, and Rob, I don't want to mention is that I think that Black Panther resonated so well because it was a made-up country, and it was kind of like the other Disney dragon movie where it was kind of like a mixture of Asian cultures, and even then there were some people complaining that it wasn't mixed enough because again,
I actually liked that Raya and the Last Dragon. I actually liked that movie a lot.
I did too, but there were a lot of people from like Vietnam and like other countries like, well, why isn't there representation for us? And it's like the big thing. But for Wakanda, because it doesn't exist, it's kind of one of those things where also there's not a large entertainment industry that's churning out movies. Look in China, they're making their own blockbusters. In Hong Kong, we have Hong Kong cinema and the Golden Horse.
There's no like
awards.
African cinema scene.
Like if
the
African cinemas,
like
Bollywood, you have like Indian films. Like these markets have enough people that can create their own content, and they frankly don't care about us. But like Black Panther was like, well, have you seen the jokey kind of African movies that are made in like those countries where they don't have the money? Like you watch it and you're kind of laugh, but you realize, oh, this is the best thing they can do.
Big budget,
like,
yeah.
And this is the budget, so it's like, oh, you appreciate the nuances of that and what they're doing. So yeah, I think that this movie is, especially if you're Chinese, has some relevance. But I can imagine if you're not Chinese, it probably doesn't really have the same type of reverberations. But nonetheless, okay.
Still very enjoyable. I think everybody can enjoy this movie, especially if you grow up watching, the Shaw Brothers or the Golden Harvest type, like Kung Fu movies, the martial arts films, the Jackie Chan ones, the Sammo Hung stuff.
We're going to go into that. Don't worry. We're going to talk about that. But John, question to you, and I'll come back. Are you going to watch the movie again in the theater? Like in IMAX or bigger? Are you going to?
Yeah, I think I have to. I think I definitely want to run it back at least one more time on a nice big IMAX AVX screen, or at least a digital screen, because some of the scenes were shot like nighttime scenes, especially the scaffolding on the building. Shout out to Rush Hour 2, and the whole dragon fight at the end.
Yep.
So those were darker scenes, which on the screen that I saw it in was not that great. So I definitely have to see it again, and I just want to see it again after sitting on it for a while, and I was like, oh yeah, I really want to go back in there and get one more theater experience of this.
Rob, are you going to watch it again?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, my daughter's got her a couple girlfriends coming over for a sleepover tomorrow, so I got to do something with the boy. So maybe I there's nothing else really in the theaters, and I was like, maybe we go back and see it. And I think your suggestion of maybe seeing it in IMAX is probably a good one. The theater I go to was gorgeous looking, but there's some of that movie was shot in it for IMAX, and I really want to. I think this is something I would, there's very few movies I would pay double again to go see in the theater, and this is definitely one of them. So,
Eric, are you going to watch it again in the theater?
Yes, definitely, because like I definitely want to bring my wife and my daughter to go and see it. They want to go, but then we decided that we're going to go for the first night, 12:30 Vaughn IMAX
Yeah,
because
you're crazy, man. When you told me your time, I thought my times were crazy.
no, but
You're crazy.
but that is with that screen.
Yeah.
We only have
IMAX
26.
is worth it if you can do
No,
it.
we only have 26 people at that time.
Yeah.
And I feel safer.
Yeah.
And Vaughn is for some reason is doing the three front, three back, three left, and three right, while every other theaters stopped doing that, and they're just doing two left and right. So there are people like immediately in front of you and immediately behind you, but Vaughn's still doing the front and back distancing. So that actually helps us to making that decision. And I definitely want to go back maybe in about a week later or so when there's like calms down, less people. Some friends of mine actually saw it in 3D, and they were saying that it's actually very fun.
It wasn't bad 3D. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't bad.
Because the rings, the punch, they said everything comes out, and it's not intentional, but it works.
It does, yeah. I watched it in 3D, and I'll watch it the next time in IMAX. But I'm like, well, it made sense for me. So.
Really, because we originally had 3D, and I said, you know what, Free Guy screwed us on the 3D, so let's screw it.
It wasn't bad. I was like, it was fine. Wow. And then I'm like, I saw it in 3D. I liked it, but yeah, I'm definitely go back and watch it in IMAX. So, but yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I think this one's gonna have legs because most movies have a huge drop off in sales. I think Shang-Chi is gonna have. I might feel like I have to wait after this week, another week before I can do it because I think
I'm checking the app every day to look at how sales are, that if there's some time that it dips down, maybe I can run out with my family to watch it. No can do. It's always 80%, always 80% seated, with the distancing, of course, but then it's always every single prime time show, we're talking about only the first 2 rows left. Every single one in the next few days.
I think we are indicative of that. It's like we all saw it, and now we want to take our families to go. So it's this is it. It's like, oh, it was good enough. Let's just keep on going. So I think it'll probably be week 2 or 3. It's unfortunate, but
some theaters are playing it with Chinese subtitles. So if you want to take parents or grandparents to see it, that's really cool. Yeah.
All right, John. What is the best part of this movie? What's the best scene? What's the moment in the movie you're like, I love this so much. It's my favorite.
Oh, the best scene is 100% the bus scene. You can't stop it. I think Rob said it was 4 weeks to set up. I think it was actually
4 weeks of filming.
In recent interviews, I think they said it took them a year in pre-prep, I guess, when they were and you can see stunt footage of Simu Liu sliding off a contraption that looks like the front end of a bus and doing all the wire work and stunt work himself. So I'd be very hard pressed to pick a better action scene, and even just the kung fu, the Jackie Chan homage, the Bruce Lee kind of like, the 1-inch punch and the kind of like the dragon drop kick and all those kinds of things that happen in that scene. It would be very hard pressed to figure out a scene that was better than that.
And that dude who was like the camera guy, who was like, I did some amateur martial arts.
I'm gonna break this down. That was hilarious.
If this was done like 5 years ago, it would be a guy with a cell phone just yelling "World Star," like, "World Star." But now the new joke is you're live streaming it. I think that's the guy from the Spider-Man movie. He's like, do a backflip.
When that happened, I was cracking up in the theater, and I'm sure my wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" But I was laughing. I was like, "That's hilarious." That scene, Eric, Rob, do you have any thoughts on that scene? Because
4 weeks to film it. I mean, you can tell this was a scene that the director used essentially to pitch his take on this character to Marvel and to Kevin Feige. He did some previs work on it and kind of showed what he wanted to do and had shot like a hot sizzle reel for it. And it shows, it is too bad that they release a lot of this scene beforehand, because it really would have been like,
the first half of it is available. It
would have been so much fun to kind of go in and barely get a glimpse of that and then be like, wow. Right. So but yeah, no, I agree with John. That's a great scene. I have a different one, but because John,
we're talking about it. Yeah, we'll go to you next. But I wanted to get yours and Eric's thoughts. Eric, what do you think of the bus scene before we?
I think, as Rob's saying, I wish they didn't show that much, and it would be like a real treat, because the bus scene by itself, the design of it, the craziness of it, it's really well done. The choreography and everything, and it's
I could see why they did it. I think.
Yeah, it's the most exciting scene.
And you can't show any of the third act, so like you kind of you had to do it, because I think Marvel's still afraid. It's like, we don't know if anyone's going to see this movie, but we got to show this one scene a lot in case people don't want to go watch our movie. So they kind of dug in, did the Mortal Kombat, released the first fight scene with as John and me fell hook, line, sinker for Mortal Kombat. They're like, oh, this movie's awesome.
That first 11 minutes.
That first 11 minutes
The
was the
first
best.
11 minutes so good, right? And then afterwards, it's like,
how many tickets did that sell?
Yeah, I thought it was going to
know.
be which Charlie Brown situation where Shang-Chi's going to be awful. But this is like, I think they were worried, Eric, and I think they were worried, Rob, that maybe no one's going to watch it. So they had to like put some of the best stuff they could just to say, come to our movie.
There was still a lot more to that scene, though. Like, you didn't even see Razor Fist get up and
the old boy homage was awesome. When they did the side shot, I'm like, that was.
But I will say though, like, I mean, thematically it looked great, but plot wise, I felt like it was, and no pun intended, it was really rushed.
Oh yeah,
like all of a sudden these guys out of nowhere on this bus, like, did they? Is it coincidental that they were on the bus? Like, I just didn't, or were they tracking it? Like, that for me was really kind of jarring. I was like, wait, what? Why are these? Are you just picking? Yeah, but you're just picking a fight with it. I thought at the beginning it was just a bunch of like punks picking a fight. Like, I thought we were at Star Trek 4, right? Like, they're just picking fights with Spock, and like, all right, that's fine. But then all of a sudden you've got, one-armed Joe. Right, Razor Fist, and I'm like, okay, so now this is purposeful. Like, that guy's just not sitting there because he's a passenger. He's so for me, plot wise, I was like, wait, what? Like that. If there was any detraction or any negative aspect of that bus scene, would be the story mode of it.
I think that is why we want to go back and see it again. It's all these little things now that if we watch it again, we'll find out, oh yeah, these guys are already there. Like, did they follow him?
They established that he knows exactly where they are. He knows
Like, I mean, like,
also establishes that you can try and kill him for sport, but you're not going to succeed. So it's kind of cool.
Rob, so what is your favorite scene?
So I'm just gonna pick a different one, and I'm gonna.
I know what it is, but yes, go for it.
I'm gonna check it out on this one. I'm gonna pick the one with Trevor. No.
Yes.
No. When Shang-Chi finally, like, he's in the water and the dragging, and he gets the rings. Again, I'm not trying to be punny here, but it's that hero shot, right, where he's floating in the air and stuff like that. Like, the music kind of swells up, and it does its job. It does the job of the emotion to give you goosebumps, and seeing the literal birth of a hero out of the water, floating there, in his hero pose. That was just that moment was great. That you've invested an hour and a bit of your time, or close to 2 hours at this point, and to see that, and you're like, wow, like, it gave credence to the fact that this guy is now going to be an Avenger, and you're behind it. Yes, and he's going to be, yes, exactly. He can stand shoulder to shoulder with the new Captain America, and it's not, he's earned his stripes, right? So,
Eric, what is your favorite scene / moment?
You'll be laughing about it, because the favorite scene is a scene that's translated wrong in the subtitles, or they cannot translate it properly in the subtitles. So when they do it in Mandarin, I was like so want to laugh, but nobody laughed in the whole theater because it didn't click with them. So when Wenwu went to the village, and then the old general dude Yunhua, the guy from Kung Fu Hustle, the landlord, he's playing the general there. So the general was saying that, like, was saying something to him, and then Wenwu actually go and tell him to shut up. And that, I think in translation in the subtitles, it says something like, like shut up, kid. Like I live 1,000 more lives than you do, or something like that.
I'm much older than you, or something like
that.
Yeah,
it's something about 1,000 lives type. A young man, like shut up, young man.
He sons him. He's like, son.
He sons him. Yeah. So that one was translated that way, but in what they really said is like, shut up, kid. I eat salt more than you eat rice. And that is a very, very traditional, especially in Cantonese too. But then they speak in Mandarin.
Yeah.
But then in Cantonese, we heard about this from grandparents to parents to uncles and aunties and even teachers. They always tell their kid, I have much more experience than you do. You shut the heck up. And they always use this phrase, I eat salt more than you eat rice. That is the, again, other than the 888 on the helicopter, that is a deep burn.
That is the deepest cut, Eric. That's the deepest cut. Not the helicopter. That's the one.
No, not. And then they didn't even translate it.
But you know what though? Having you explaining it, I would have been like, what? So I it's a deep cut and it's a good for an inside.
Yeah, it's a very Chinese thing. It's a very Chinese thing for an old person to say to a younger person. It's like, like I've eaten so many meals, then it's like, yeah. But I guess for Chinese maybe you should say
it was a good.
I have more MSG.
Of it. Yeah.
Well, I will say though, if I know that Stu wanted me to say what was probably like the one scene I laughed aloud, nobody else did, and it really made me show my age when they're in the car and they're driving through like the maze of things. And Trevor talks about the fact that when he watched the 1960s, The Planet of the Apes, and, and that about them being I burst out laughing when he was like, well, you understood they were acting on the horses. They had them, they weren't really riding horse. They were only acting like and I was like, holy shit. I was good. Killing myself. Nobody else was. Nobody else was laughing.
Not since the Mad Men episode when Bobby Draper saw and went, wow, when he saw the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And Rob had so much like meaning in his life. So no, I was surprised you picked that scene because I also was chuckling a lot because it was just like really just perfect.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so John, I'm going back to you. The worst part, the one that you're like, what is the moment of this film that you wish they could fix?
I wish Marvel didn't accept these vehicle sponsors so hard, because it looks really funny when all of a sudden like there's these very apparent BMWs and it happens in all their shows. All of a sudden there'll be this whack ass car that these guys wouldn't use or whatever, and then when Tony Leung's gang shows up, they're driving appropriate like Land Rovers and stuff like that. But like the Razorfist has got this brand new straight off the dealership Beamer. But I'll say like I don't understand why and I feel like it's been a trend in a lot of things we've watched lately. They just throw prisoners in a room and they don't take any of their stuff. They don't was there even a lock on a door, or did he just throw them in the basement?
I think there's probably a lock, but there's
it was very loose. It was very loose.
Yeah,
he keeps him as a jester, so he's not exactly a prisoner, I guess.
But the entire crew, he just throws them all down there together, and then of course they escape. I thought it was going to be part of his plan that he follows them, and it was his plan all along, but it wasn't. They just escape, and then the sister breaks down the wall and it's like, oh, I know the way out. You're just like,
she was very Loki-esque in like there are other ways to get on Asgard.
It's a very it was a very simple like trap for them to get over. So I think maybe that, I don't know.
Wow, that's you gotta speed up the movie, John. You can't you have less Michelle Yeoh
if
they're sitting there figuring out how to get out of that jail. So, Rob,
I really want to talk about Trevor Slattery, and maybe we'll do that after. But the actual worst part of the movie, you know what? Honestly, it's behind John. The fight scene between Wong and the Abomination.
I actually really liked it. I thought it was perfect.
It's great. He made him punch himself.
No,
Well-
because it was like we talked about this, like Dragonheart. They were working to basically fix the match. Where there's like if you rewatch it, they're like, I told you to
I told you to pull
like,
your punches.
Like they are
Oh yeah,
straight up
they definitely.
hustling people.
And
And
they're
they're like, we're gonna work together to make money. Like the fact that Wong is working with Blonsky to like, oh, we just gotta make money and like just figure out how to do this and like
But
take
why?
advantage of stuff. Like, sorry,
But why?
Well,
Wong
we'll
doesn't
probably-
have
we're
money.
gonna
Did you not
try-
see Doctor Strange? Is like,
Because it's
you want
funny.
a tuna sandwich? Do you have any money? He doesn't have money. What is it? What does the Sorcerer Supreme pay? None of these guys have money.
They don't have benefits. He's got a sore tooth.
A 401k.
No one has money. Like look at Falcon in Falcon and Winter Soldier show. He can't even afford mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
Like
I
it's
don't know.
weird,
I
it's
just
like
was.
Tony Stark's not payrolling everyone anymore. So he's like, I gotta do some
Yeah.
street fighting. Where next he's gonna fight Blanca next or E Honda to make the money. Which I think if you walk by one of the cages, there was a sumo guy fighting another person.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as I think there was
It looked like somebody looked like Chung Li was fighting as well. Like
I'm sure. And then the other guy I noticed too, it's funny you mentioned that fight scene, is that the next thing, if you notice there was a guy, extremis guy that was still glowing.
Yeah, there's an extremist guy fighting a Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's the girl from Black Widow. So
Yeah.
Okay. I get what you're saying. It didn't make sense, but I think they just sneaked it in. But I think that the nuance of it was like they're in it to hustle,
Win
people.
it. Oh.
Yeah, and to win it and hustle.
Yeah,
So I thought
that'd
that
be
was-
one of the moments someone not familiar with these movies will be like, "What? I didn't get that. Why was that funny?" You know.
Yeah, and the fact that he didn't even say a word, he just grunted a few times, and apparently that was still
His grunt.
Tim Roth.
that was still Tim Roth grunting.
Tim
so
Roth's
it-
grunt.
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And also the abomination seemed to have grown gills. I didn't
It's more comic form.
Yes.
Like it,
Yeah.
it's more like him. So I'm
Yeah.
actually good with that. Eric, what's something you didn't like in this movie?
I feel that the ending, it's a little rushed, especially when you have Katie actually shoot the dragon down. That was kind of like okay, it's a matter of convenience.
It
Sure.
worked in The Hobbit. Why not?
I guess you're right.
Down small.
Not
Yeah.
even an like I get if Legolas shot Smog because it's a really like one plate and the guy just shot it from
No,
the
but that's Legolas, you know. Like,
yeah, that was just a regular dude.
Katie,
No, but
Katie just started learning how to shoot arrows, and it's kind of like I like it and I don't like it because I kind of like it's just too convenient that happens. But in terms of the character development, you know, when the general is always telling her, you know, like you have to focus. If you do not have, you know, have a target, then you have no life. So I guess that kind of graduated her character.
Yeah.
Properly. It's very symbolic, which is a good thing. But again, you know, it's just a matter of convenience there, and a lot of some other convenience stuff too. Like, you know, as I said,
Well,
you know,
she
like
would have had nothing to do in that last act. If they didn't
and I
end
think
the boner.
to be fair, I agree with you that her getting that lucky shot, but I think in like many things, if we ever met people that played sports, golf, tennis, archery for the first time, the best people that do it don't think and just shoot it. It's when you golf and it gets in your head and you overthink. That's when you just suck. So
True.
all that beginner's luck is that they have no idea what they're doing and they just let the body naturally do it, and they get either it's ping pong, whatever sport. Sometimes person's like the first time they play and they're just good at it because naturally that's what happens, or they get a lucky shot. So I just chalk that up to like she got a lucky shot, and again, no one else was going to aim, and then Shang-Chi was going to die, so there would be no next movie. We gotta to your point, we gotta have her do something, because I don't understand how they're going to keep her in the next movie because she doesn't do anything.
No.
Like she's
No.
just there.
Great.
Barely does a comedy well.
She's
She
great.
was-
Like unless like she went to Berkeley for literature, so she can't even be the guy in the chair. You know, like Spider-Man's like, you'll be the guy in the chair talking like
Yeah.
doing
No.
comedy. She doesn't even know how to do that. So
No.
I
She was a poor man's Sandy from what do you call it? Speed. So
How dare you? How dare
Sandy Bullock.
true. It's true. But I think all your criticisms are correct. It just, I think in lieu of this movie, you just had to pick something. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, it's really, to me, is a nitpick, because honestly, the more I think about the whole structure of the movie and everything, I think it's great. I don't really have much to complain about.
My nitpick would be like, okay, so he started learning to fight when he was what, 8 or 9? What was it? When did he start
he was
learning?
younger than that. He was like it was like 5 or 6.
6. And then he left his home at 13.
No, he was older than that. He left home when he was 16 or 18 or something.
I think it's 15. I think it says
15 or 16, just something like that.
Really, he's been learning martial arts for like 9 years. That's what it was like in time.
You don't know what he did. You don't know what he did.
This is a long 9 years.
This is a long 9 years.
See, here's the thing. I think when you were a kid and you went through these intense, crazy training, assassin training. Yeah. It's in you, and then also it's established that he's still kind of trying to keep himself fit. He's doing push-ups and all those kind of things. Like he didn't go Thor and started going fat and shit, right? So
yeah, but even morning calisthenics doesn't make up for the fact that like practicing technique and punching stuff
experience in a ring.
That's the thing where I'm like, that's the big.
It becomes a reflex, I guess.
Yeah. Like he hasn't fought in a long time, and all of a sudden he's like, I get in shape is one thing, but like,
well, now you're going to unanswered questions. You've actually moved yourself into the next phase of your.
It's a good segue. That's what I'm doing. So unanswered questions. That was my big thing where I don't understand how he was able to keep the sharpness of fighting, because if anyone knows about martial arts, then when you stop doing it, like it's not easy to pick up again. Either you're a boxer, martial arts. If we had Tim on here, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, you just can't stop and then be awesome."
No, I think if Mike Tyson took off 10 years, I still wouldn't want to fight him.
Yeah, but that's a different type of fighting.
I'd be like, "Yo, man,
brute force." This what Shang-Chi was doing in terms of the technique and all the stuff. Like, it's different. So, John, what's an unanswered question that you have?
I guess it would just be, how does Trevor speak to the weird Morrison creature? Yeah. And it's not like they were little.
How do they communicate?
It wasn't turn left here. It was like, go here at this time. You have to wait this long and precisely go through. Like, it was like too detailed of a message that it was giving to him. But who knows? Maybe he has some type of Chinese power.
Folklore, and Eric could correct me, I think that creature is like a creature of confusion. So like, I think because Trevor's so confused about life, it just matches that they can have a conversation, because he's not fixed to reality. But normally in mythology, Chinese, like that creature is like of confusion, and when you're around it, you're confused, or it gives you these different things.
Yeah, so I didn't care.
There is a thing to it.
It was funny, and the thing was cute. The faceless butt thing was cute. So it's like,
I don't know. I always thought that when I first saw that thing in toy form, and then I saw it in a movie, I always thought that it was a joke to, what people perceive Kentucky Fried Chickens.
It was like weird chicken, yeah.
Yeah, those weird chicken with like just wings and bodies with no heads and stuff, and that's kind of like that mythological creature that makes Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what it is.
You better believe those old Chinese scrolls with that picture on it is now worth money. Now you'd be like, from Shang-Chi.
First appearance, this mythical
Morris. And you're like, oh, snap, I want to buy that picture with Morris on it. It's just made an underground.
It'll be on Key Collector. It'll be on Key Collector tonight.
Disney put out the character posters of Morris and Trevor yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was like, Trevor, I understand. It's like, Morris? Seriously? Wow. Gee, they really want to monetize this thing.
People love. Here's the thing. At this point, people can, Eric, as you well aware in life, they'll complain about anything. If you don't do it, they're like, "Why isn't Morris there?" So you might as well just go, "I'd rather just do it than not do it." Because
it's just a JPEG online, whatever.
Rob, what's your unanswered question, or do you have anything?
Yeah. I mean, listen. I if I really wanted to get like all logical about stuff, I'd be like, listen. Very few parts of this world have been explored. How is it that this fucking mystical area has never had, this forest has never, like, it just seemed a little bit like, where did this come from?
Or something?
Yeah.
It could be this. It could be, but next to Kung Lao,
Yeah.
It opens once every 10 years.
Well, thank God.
It turns out that it's like the forest at the back actually leads to Wakanda.
Yeah. You know what? I don't really have any real unanswered questions. I guess if I was going to say, why did we have so much Trevor in this movie?
I wanted more Trevor. I don't care.
I wanted more Trevor. I actually like it.
No, he
I
only had a
actually
couple
enjoyed
of good,
him.
No, he only had a couple of good lines. Like I didn't understand his, like I thought it was too much, to be honest with you. I was like, the lines that he was giving were not, like they didn't
First
move
off, Rob,
anything.
I don't think you understand how difficult it is to be a babysitter, teach all the kids how to play soccer. He's doing God's work. If you look at all the, like, you try to wrangle 13 kids to get them to do anything whatsoever, and he's like, let me show you how to play this game called football. So he was doing a lot of stuff. He was the
It is weird. If you had to cut, if it was cut for time or whatever, you could totally cut his part for time.
Yes, there were some funny
But
moments.
it was fun.
But
The playing dead moment is so.
Yes,
Yeah, that
that's
was really
hilarious.
I was like,
That one was hilarious. It's
Yeah,
like,
but it was more than a like I really honestly thought, oh shit, here he is. It's gonna be a cameo, and then it just kind of kept going on, and I was like, oh,
he joined their adventuring party.
right, yeah.
And it kept on getting better, Rob. You never would have had that Planet of the Apes conversation. So shame on you.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't have had that was pretty good.
Yeah. Eric, any weird unanswered questions outside of how did he get the, like, I guess since he's that rich, he will be able to get the WW888 license for the helicopter very easily, because if he's been around for
he controls everything. I'm sure that he has his own.
Do you think
My
question to you is, do you think all his license plates are also WW888 for his Beamer and all the other things? Or...
we need that's why we need to watch it again, to see the car license plates and everything. It's our old license plate was like 3s and 8s and stuff with no 4s.
One will be WW8, one will be WW88, one like each car
888, or 228 or 328 or whatever, Yeah. I don't. One of the things that makes me thinking and questioning, and it's to be seen, is, so they were saying that when Wu got the rings and he becomes who he is, his anger and everything, and now that Shang-Chi got the rings, they turned gold instead of blue. Does it mean that
we're gonna get to that? Okay, hold that thought, because we're gonna talk
so
about
we'll
the
get
rings.
to talk about that. Yeah,
talk about the rings, because that's a great point, because that's the segue to the MCU rings. So they are very different. I know you've already talked about the rings traditionally are rings of the finger of the Mandarin that were souls of warriors from a different dimension, and that's what they are. They're created by the race of Fing Fang Foom, and yes, these are aliens that crash land on the planet, and then basically like Green Lantern. And then the OG Mandarin killed the space alien, took the rings from himself, and gained power. So these rings are very different in a sense of what the powers and capability are. When Wu holds them, they are blue, and like the Lord of the Rings, he is easily corrupted by the voice behind the wall. Like you can they can hear it. Yes, and he is now drawn to the I don't even know what the monster's called. It's so generic. It's like the
Gary.
The Great Darkness or something like that. Whatever. We fight
It's a soul eater, or this is like a soul eater or something like that. Something like that.
Oh God, whatever. It's like
soul
we are
sucker.
The Great Protector, and the other one is like the Dweller in Darkness. I think it's like something like that.
Yeah.
So
it was the equivalent of everybody's mother-in-law. Anyways.
So like when Shang-Chi does the rings, like you mentioned, Eric, they go yellow because he is now, as we know, embraced the yin and the yang, the earth and the heavens combined.
I thought it was red.
Activate the power of the
like a reddish orange,
red, yellow, gold.
Yeah.
I don't know. We just know it wasn't blue.
It wasn't blue.
So like they are drastically different because each ring, and Eric could probably talk about it, like one is like dominance, one is like control.
Yeah.
Like the OG wings, but these are just like the
just
way that
generic.
Represented in this movie was that they could be combined to punch people or make you fly or do all this, protect you as a shield. They're kind of a jack of all trades ring. Do you think that was the right usage, Eric, as someone who's drawn the ring 1,000 times before, probably, or seen it? Like, is this?
I don't know. So here's that is also one of the real deviation from the original Mandarin rings to these bracelet rings. Is like originally every single ring has a different purpose or a different power.
Kind of like the Infinity Stones.
Yeah. But now it's just a whole bunch of generic bracelets that power you up, right? Would they explore it more later on? You know, now that they are in the hands of like, you know, Bruce Banner and, you know, and Carol Danvers and Wong and Doctor Strange, like everybody can actually check it out. Maybe they can unlock some new powers. Maybe every single one of them would turn into a different color later on. I don't know. You know,
I think it answered your question before. When Wu used them, they were fine. But when Shang-Chi embraced both sides of the family and he unlocked them, he really got like the 100% power of those rings. So he was really doing stuff with them and able to really maximize that. I know the theory that came out was that these are quantum bands. So these are the quantum bands from like that are just like the rings from Green Lantern, only can be chosen. You can use them and unlock the full power if you're chosen, but if you're not, you can just use them as is. And the color of the bands matches the quantum realm and all the things that could happen. And that would be another way for, you know, them to signify that these are Shang-Chi is maybe like his family history, guardian of the universe, guardian of the galaxy-esque thing, because these are the quantum bands rather than just, you know, the rings, which would make it a kind of an interesting, different story take.
There's a couple very interesting things during the fights and stuff of how they use the ring. I don't know if you guys catch that at one point at the end when Tony Leung really wants to punch through that doorway, he actually shifted all the rings, all 10 rings into one hand and did one last punch. And that was like, that was really cool. It's like, you know, I don't have enough power on the left and the right, and then push it over. It's like that was really cool. You know, and what Shang-Chi is doing at the end, you know, he shoots all the ring down, and then, you know, he did the Dragon Ball out of it to kill the dragon. And that's kind of cool. So
because to your point, you know, they like when they brought in Captain Marvel to say like, oh, is this alien tech? She had no idea. When Wong was like, oh, I looked in the codex, none of the ancient history. This is going back to the Agamotto himself. He never saw it before. And then when Bruce Banner's like, this is not tech that we've seen. Marvel's done a job of, they keep on talking about it. It's, you know, Thor mentioned it in Thor 1. It's like, you know, magic and science are the same. Like it's one of the things where this is it. And these probably predate before. You know, maybe it's a celestial weapon that they used as the first Guardians to protect
Galactus.
I wonder
I don't know if it's power cosmic, but that would be, you know, that's a little.
I wonder if they would connect this to, you know, Eternals somehow.
So. It would make sense if there's like it awakens, you know, some. But yeah, before I get to that, John, what do you think of the rings? Do you think that there was a better?
I thought they were great. I really liked the way they used them, and they were able to. He was able to like propel themselves off the ground, almost like Iron Man's like cannons or photon blasts or whatever like that. And like Eric said, the switching of all the strength to one hand. I do question the whole tug of war whip thing that happened with them later on, but you know, overall the use of the rings was really, I think, really clever. So it was a really clever kind of reimagining of this idea. And man, did they look hella stylish when Tony Leung just had his jacket and the sleeves rolled up.
Oh yeah,
just walking around with him. He looked like a gangster. He looked like really cool.
That pretty much that bar looked like the scene from Hard Boiled. Like I was watching that. I'm like, oh, is that the bar from Hard Boiled? Like I'm just waiting for tequila to show up. I'm like, where's Charlie?
I wouldn't be surprised if that starts becoming like a fashion thing. Like we already had like jade bracelets and stuff like that, but if
they licensed it. Someone's actually making bracelets out of it already. It's a real product. I saw it the other day.
So I really like them. I don't know if they could have done the same thing with finger rings and not have it look silly. I liked it.
I think the last final scene wouldn't have looked as cool when they're holding the rings fighting if it was just individual rings that they're holding on to. Yeah, it's a little cheesy. Rob, what are your thoughts on the rings?
Yeah, I think that the practicality of those rings, you know, to actually hold have all of your we've seen many of hip hop artists wearing like 3 rings together and this and that, and you can't really close your. It's just not practical. I mean, listen, you also just had Thanos with the gauntlet on his hand, so you have to differentiate it. The only person who could potentially wear a ring like that would have been Jeff Speakman, the perfect weapon. And so I'm
Tiger the Dragon.
That's right. So I am completely fine. I think it's cool. And listen, we said this at the beginning. Marvel reappropriates their IP to suit what they're doing, and I'm cool with it, man. It makes sense. It looked good, and it was functional for I think having all the rings on them would just be unfunctional. So
I did like when Aquafina's like, oh, he went all Kamehameha, like the Dragon Ball Z, like fireball thing, and I was laughing. I'm like, yeah, it's for the nerds out there. But I think I all agree with you that it was done really well. I appreciated that it's a mystery still. Like, we don't know what it is. To your point, Eric, there could still unlock each particular ring. It could be something different. But at the same time, I'm also cool if they're just, they're just quantum bands, or just like these are just 10 rings that.
But what I like though is how they switch it around, turn it around, and actually give Shang-Chi, like some superpower to handle with like Hulk and Captain Marvel and stuff. So it kind of levels him up to that kind of status, because or else, if you think about it before, he's just a kung fu master.
Whoa. He can clone himself. Thank you very much. He can make doubles, which is stupid, by the way, but you can make doubles of themselves.
Yeah. Hey, if they incorporate this power in the regular MCU, yeah.
It's way better this one. Yeah, Eric doesn't make, like, in the MCU, like, now he can make double, like, there's like 3 versions of him that can fight, but that's stupid. This is much more cooler.
Yeah, this is much more cooler to go forward.
But it was, I think, also the fact that we are also not recognizing that he is one of the best martial artists / people in the MCU, period. So in the comics, like, he's almost unbeatable if you just fight him in martial arts. Like, he's just that character. Even fighting Iron Fist, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's Shang-Chi, like, you can't beat him. So there is a level of thing. But the problem is he's just a regular human being. And when you're the Hulk, it's like you need strength to match it. You just can't, as a human, punch the Hulk or you break your hand.
That is why Black Widow failed me, because she could have died so many times in that movie.
Well, no, the problem is I never believe she could die. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, we know that she wouldn't die.
It's like I never thought that she was ever in like any type of trouble. Like, it was Shang-Chi. I'm like, oh man, maybe. Like, there was a moment where, like, oh, the Death Eater could be, like, there was doubt. I'm like, maybe Shang-Chi could get hurt or die. I never thought Black Widow was ever going to even get scuffed, because Black Widow is a character that she's invincible.
Yeah, but that is why, because she's not a superpowered character, which is what my biggest problem is with the Black Widow movie. But that was another podcast that I missed. So
that's like another hour.
Hey, before I forget, because I actually did have an unanswered question. We don't need to answer it. It was just, I meant to say it before. Is what's stronger, Dragon Scale or Wakandan Vibranium? Because we both
it's a different universe. You can't say, because they've said in your universe the rings are the most powerful weapons in your universe. When Michelle Yeoh was like, that is the difference, and I'm like, so what universe is this? Is this a variant universe or a pocket universe? There wasn't really clear, because she said, this is the most powerful in your universe. I'm like, over the Infinity Gauntlet now? Because the Infinity Gauntlet's gone? Like, it wasn't really clear as to what it is. All we know is a giant civilization and buildings in this universe, and no one explained anything. So yeah.
Well, but they're doing the Shonen Jump now, right? They're doing the Shonen Jump that, you have initially very grounded characters, and then they fight, and then they meet, another, and they become friends. They meet another more bigger, problem, and then they fight, and then they join force the next level. And now it's becoming the point that it's like Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball is like Dragon Ball Z now, which everybody can punch the ground and then split the earth. And I think somehow, I don't know, we'll see what happens in the next Avengers movie. It has to be something super cosmic, and they probably have to get out of Earth to deal with it, because everybody has earth-shattering power now.
Yeah, we'll see. Time and things will be different. Actually, I want to see Shang-Chi in the Tournament of Heaven, like that was in the Iron Fist comics. Like I want that to just take that storyline with Shang-Chi.
First of all, reboot Iron Fist.
Yeah, and just make it like that. That's the thing, like a tournament, a Mortal Kombat martial arts tournament with Shang-Chi. I'm like, let's just do that. Let's leave him out of the MCU for a bit longer. We'll deal with him later. Anyways,
if they're gonna if they're gonna ever reboot Iron Fist, please, no, but please, don't make him Asian. That's one of the things. Is like you don't need every single kung fu guy being Asian.
Well, like don't make him Finn Jones either. So
yeah, find another good, good white actor who can do
Reynolds.
it. Ryan Reynolds.
well, no. To be fair, Eric, there was a call to John and me know our boy who was in contention to be it, and I'm glad he wasn't Iron Fist because that
Louis
was
Tan, right?
Louis Tan. He is mixed. So if you're going to do the storyline, you can do a mixed Asian who doesn't understand. And there's a lot of Asians out there who are mixed ethnicity, whose mother or father is of the Caucasian and of Asian and don't understand the history of the language and is a stranger outside of it. So if you're going to do that and have that, that's possible.
I lost Snake Eyes.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other problem. That's a whole other podcast. We'll maybe have to do that with you another day because that one. I have many problems.
We'll maybe have to talk about Snake Eyes.
Have you guys done Snake Eyes already?
Oh no, because it's a train wreck. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Don't worry. Let's. Okay. John, who do you think that the rings awoken? Like, who do you think that they?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't really like to speculate this type of stuff, so I have no ideas.
Good. All right. Rob?
Well, I wasn't just joking. I actually it potentially we have to, this is not an answer we're gonna get over the next few movies. This is gonna be like way down the line. We know Fantastic Four are coming. We're looking at phase 5 before we maybe get a proper answer on this. I'm saying Galactus. I'm you're
swinging for it. Eric?
I am.
I don't speculate either. I mean, I remember how I was part of a weekly
were you part of the Mephisto Club on WandaVision?
Mephisto Club, yeah.
No, I was the weekly Clubhouse sci-fi thing talking about WandaVision every week. And then everybody was kind of like freaking out, trying to pick apart every single little thing when Quicksilver came up and everybody was like, oh, X-Men. It's like, no, I don't. I said it over and over again at that time. I was like, no, I don't think they will introduce X-Men in a TV show like that. But everybody was like, no, you don't understand MCU. It was like, you don't understand MCU. You guys don't understand MCU. Yeah. Don't speculate. My thing is, I try to not speculate. I have expectations, but I try not to speculate and drum up any hopes or anything because I just want to enjoy the ride that they gave us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Rob's answer of Galactus and to that extent.
To the extent, yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say Vin Diesel, so you get negative 6 points.
So Fast and the Furious 11.
Yeah, it's a crossover with Vin Diesel. John, I have to ask you, is this Tony Leung's best movie?
This is a really, really, I think, solid performance by him. Like, I think it's going to be really.
He's
really
the MVP of the movie, but
but for sure, Infernal Affairs, which I think is like one of the best films of all of HK cinema, and I haven't. Unfortunately, I'm not up to current, so I don't know if something has come to top it. But if I go through my history of renting out laserdiscs to people and all that kind of stuff of all the HK films that I've seen, I'd say Infernal Affairs is probably the best HK movie I've ever seen. And he is a very key character in that movie.
Rob?
I actually do enjoy that movie, but for me, it was hard boiled. I worked at a video store. I've talked about this. I was exposed to a lot, say what you will about Quentin Tarantino. He opened up the door to bringing in a lot of Asian movies to North American viewers. And Hard Boiled was one of the first ones that I was really, that was my very first John Woo movie. So I was super into it and really enjoyed it. So the 90s, yeah, I'm gonna go hard boiled.
Eric?
I would say in the movie, the best performance is Tony Leung. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
However, is this his best performance? In my opinion, no. But his performance exceeded my expectations because I remember every single Chow Yun-fat movie he made in Hollywood, and he can act. He is a great actor, but then none of his Hollywood movies portray him that he can act. And then once he started speaking English and stuff, it falls apart. He just like doesn't work. But this one, they really utilize him really well. When he speaks English, it has power. You can kind of feel that it's less power, but it still has power.
Yeah.
The his eyes, his expressions, everything is working full force, and it's amazing to watch. But I enjoy him the most. Infernal Affairs is one for recent films. The Grandmaster is pretty good, but then Lust Caution is one that I really enjoy his performance the most because he's also playing kind of like a villain. He's not a good guy, but then he was caught in this lust thing. By the way, it's an R-rated film. It's a very, very sexual film, so not for kids. It's literally like as much as a Chinese company can make porn. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But that movie shows off his internalness of the character, the best of how he acted and how he does his his expression and his eyes and everything. That one shows off the best. And I enjoyed the most. And also like the other Wong Kar-wai films too, like the 2046 and In the Mood of Love, those he's very good in those as well.
He's been around a while.
My movie because In the Mood for Love is the one. He is by far, that's his best performance by a country mile. No one does just sadness and just like yearning looking at someone else, but never be able to be anyone else like Tony Leung in that movie. So it is in my opinion, his like other like Hardboiled is great, but he's kind of a supporting. And
Hardboiled back in the days, he's still very young.
Yeah, he's very young, but
yeah.
I don't. Yeah,
but he's already pretty good at that time.
Oh yeah. It's not a question.
Well, very few Caucasian people would have been introduced to a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, it's 100%. But yeah, Hardboiled is I own it on real DVD, fake DVD, and like on digital. So I go watch that movie once a year at least, just because of the hospital sequence alone. Just I love it.
Yeah, the hospital shootout scenes look amazing.
Like, incredible. Holding the baby. I was like, when I saw it in Fast and Furious, I'm like, you stole that from Hardboiled, you bastard. John, where does Shang-Chi fall in the Marvel hierarchy? There's like millions of movies now. Top 5, middle, bottom. Where is it?
For me, it's obviously going to be in the top 5. You're combining a lot of the genres I already enjoy. You're throwing kung fu. You're throwing my girl Aquafina in the mix. So 100%, it's going to be in my top 5 somewhere.
Wow, Rob.
Not top 5 for me, but definitely top 10. So that's more than middle? Maybe number
upper
8.
middle, upper mid.
Yeah. Eric?
I would definitely say top 5 for me. Even more so, I would say. So it's Winter Soldier is still my top Marvel movie, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I've said it many times, I like Winter Soldier because it's a very independent, self-contained movie. You don't need to watch anything else to enjoy it. It has a beginning and an end, really nicely capped out. It's a good, different genre. And I think Shang-Chi is up there with Winter Soldier, that it's a very self-contained story that anybody can just pick up and watch. You don't need to go and watch like the 25 movies beforehand to watch this one. And also it's a really good story, and it's also a genre breaking thing. It's not the same as the other Marvel movies that's like over and over again. It's the same thing, like similar things. I mean, like every single Marvel movie has a little different kind of themes or anything to it. But then I like the one that stands out, that, you know, like Winter Soldier is definitely a spy movie. You know, this one is definitely like a martial arts movie, you know, with family and, you know, elements to it, which we don't get that family elements in any of the Marvel films.
Guardians, you do.
Guardians.
They tried to do it in Black Widow. They tried to do it in Black Widow.
They tried the family thing. They tried. They didn't drink Corona and say familia, but they tried Marvel. They're trying to have a family, you know. But I get what you're saying. Like everything does it.
But this one resonates. You know, the other one's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Is this in your top 5, Stu, or you put it in the middle?
I'm actually completely on par with Rob. It's like 8 or 9. Like I think my tastes are very similar to Rob. Like it was refreshing to watch a Marvel movie where there was no Infinity Stones, no
baggage,
Avengers, no
nothing. Insert this USB into this computer.
Yeah, like no, like it was just like they didn't even mention the blip. It was just like a poster on the wall. Like it was just like, and someone mentioned it like, oh, the blip. Like it was so nice to watch a movie where I didn't have the cameo of like, oh, here's like Anthony Mackie doing something and like it's gonna lead to the next movie. Like Wong was there, but Wong, it felt more organic that Wong was there, not like he's not like the top tier of an Avenger. He's kind of like the sidekick of Doctor Strange, or a colleague. So, but he's not officially an Avenger. So it felt like it was nice that he was peripherally kind of involved in it. So it was nice just to watch a movie where I didn't need to worry about all the nuance and like all the other specialty of like the MCU. So yeah, I think when I do my list again, like Rob, I think the movie grew on me the more time I stepped away from it. The more like I really thought about it, like, yeah, it's really good. But there's still glaring problems with this movie. But just like any Marvel, like all movies, I can nitpick anything. So it is what it is. Nonetheless, I enjoyed it, and clearly we all did too. So let's wrap this up because we could talk about this all day. John, where can we find you on the internets, on the web, all that?
So Heroes World Online is the key. That'll bring you to our Instagram, our Facebook, our YouTube channel here. If you're listening to this on the audio, Heroes World Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, whatever you use for your podcast service. Definitely give us a follow, give us a like, give us a 5-star review on iTunes if you can, and then that will also all those things will lead you to our website as well as our physical location located in Markham, Ontario. You can find the address from our website. So looking forward to seeing you.
Awesome. Rob?
Yes, you can find me online at the_905, all spelled out. Mondays, John and I do the Heroes World Sidekick Show, and we actually did a lot of thought and research as to what we were going to do for this Monday, the 13th of September. And we've decided to essentially ask us anything. We are actually going to be talking about the summer of 2021, the things that we watched. We were asking those who like to join us online at 8:00 on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Let us know what you saw, what you played, what you listened to this summer. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what's coming out in the fall, since we are almost at pumpkin spice latte season. And
it's already begun.
Yeah, so as Rob would say,
I think it started.
We're almost ready for Bond.
Yes, for Bond. So we're gonna be talking about the summer of 2021, the fall of 2021, and Ask Us Anything. So join us live Monday night, 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And that's Heroes World Online.
Erik, it was a pleasure to have you on. I know you're a busy man with all the different things you have going on. Tell the people at home what you have going on.
Well, I run 2 different companies. One is Udon Entertainment, which we do mainly like video game and anime art books and merchandise. So you go to udonpins.com, or you just go to like the Udon Entertainment website and click the store. Then you'll see a lot of cool stuff that we do, very limited edition pins, limited edition pre-order t-shirts, and all sorts of things. And these are the things that we're doing, lately, which is really fun. which
Yeah, we just got
I
that
mainly had.
Beyond the World. You're not gonna see it. Beyond the World of
Yeah, the
Shang-Chi.
Beyond the World art book, you
Art
know,
book
though,
just came out.
like we have been publishing books and comics and mangas, you know, all sorts of things. I also do have another a sister kind of publication company called Manga Classics, which, you know, if you have kids and you want them to, you know, ace their classic literature class in school, you know, go check these books out. They are all available at Heroes World. And also they are available like, you know, other places where books are sold, but then, you know, I'm pretty sure that John can hook you up with a good discount on them, so go and look for John. They are faithfully adapted classic literature stories in manga format, which are what the kids like nowadays. We have a couple of Shakespeare ones, which we have unabridged full Shakespeare text, you know, 400, you know, 300 something, 400 something page, you know, big manga volumes. And you can trick a kid reading a full Shakespeare, thinking that, oh, I'm just reading some romance manga of Romeo and Juliet or some revenge manga of Hamlet. But it's actually, they read the real Shakespeare. And it's proven with teachers that, you know, that this is a very, you know, a good, you know, way to get kids, you know, to read literature and stuff. And I work with, you know, local teachers and librarians in the States to develop this line for educational purposes as well as entertainment purposes. So do check it out at mangaclassics.com. And, you know, go to Heroes World and you can flip through the books and stuff.
No, that's awesome. As always, I'm always thrilled to have you. You are so busy doing all this stuff, and I know a mutual acquaintance of ours, Mike, also works with you on a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, Mike's actually our consultant. Mike's like a English teacher.
Yep.
You know.
So yeah, I'm well aware, Mr. Barreltrop himself. So there we go. So thank you all for joining us today. Maybe we'll try to steal Eric again to talk about Snake Eyes.
Yes, man, we need to. I want to talk about Snake Eyes.
Rob,
we'll figure it out. But if you want
Rob, watch it, and then, you know, we can do it, man.
In the comments.
Snake Eyes had the opposite effect. You watch it and you're like, okay, that's not bad. And the more you think about it, you're like, oh man, no, that was bad.
It was so it might be one of the, like, just not the Masterpiece Theater, the reverse of it, just similar to how
it's Snake Eyes is like that. And Black Widow, I watch it twice, and then the second time I watch it, it literally falls apart. Snake Eyes, it started falling apart at the end of the first time, and then you started thinking about it the second time. You don't have to watch it the second time. It's like, oh, there's something's not right. But Black Widow, I like it because I'm so hungry for Marvel content.
Yeah. But we got TV shows. That's the problem. Anyways, we can talk about something. We got TV shows. That's why I didn't care about the movie, because I got Loki. That was a Winter Soldier and the Falcon. Like, I got TV shows that filled the gap. So I wasn't really that thirsty for it. But we can talk about that another day, another time, because we are going long. So thank you all for joining us. Support local. Go buy Manga Classic. Udon Entertainment is always awesome. They have a zillion things, and John could special order it too for the people that need it. Mention the podcast. Maybe John can help you out in some shape.
Yeah, you need any Marvel books. You need to read up on Shang-Chi histories. I'm sure that, you know, Heroes World can help you out.
Eric is on social media, so you can bug him there too. So
yeah, I'm on social media. You can find
on social media.
You can find me at Manga Classics or at UDONENT, Udon Entertainment, Udon Ent.
So connect, bother us all. Let us know in the comments what you want us to do next. Have a safe one. Be safe. Watch the movie again, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.